UFC 318 is this Saturday, and with another pay-per-view, it means we have the Money Manzel MMA criteria for you beautiful people today. So, what is the Money Manzel MMA criteria, you ask? It involves autism. This is big. I think everyone can agree that it is the most important thing when predicting fights. Aura slash TikTok editability. This is big time stuff. And we also have IQ. And touching on the TikTok editability, I also think in the same way that if you're someone who the hardest edits would be of you losing and like how you used to be really good, that also works against you. But regardless, IQ, you have to not be stupid. Listen, if we had this criteria when Leon Edwards was fighting Bilal and Sean Brady, we would have picked the opponents because we know that Leon Edwards is a dumb human being. Regardless, plot armor. Obviously, this was just created at the genesis of DDP's reign, and understanding that you just need to be favored by plot to be able to win fights. So, I've also added a fifth criteria point here because I think it's worth a mention. I feel like a tough press conference fit tends to suit you well in fights. Now, there are examples like Li Jing Liang where you can wear a tough press conference fit and you don't get to fight. So that's unfortunate, but regardless, these are the five criteria points. Write them down, bank them in your head, and I promise you guys, I make two prediction videos rather a week. This one much less serious, no backing behind anything to what I pick. Unfortunately, this is the one that did better views wise last week, so more people saw it and were like, "Oh, what the fuck? Why'd you pick this guy?" My actual predictions are on Thursdays, not on Tuesdays, so keep that in mind. Anyways, this is the criteria. 5 points here. Throw every single bit of that criteria out of the window for this fight. Um, the best way to describe a Michael Johnson fight, everything you've ever known about MMA, the UFC, any sport ever in logic, just throw it in the trash. Literally, there's no way to predict a Michael Johnson fight. I knew a lot of people that thought Otman Azaitar was going to beat Michael Johnson just because it was the type of fight that he would lose. How? What the fuck? What kind of logic is that for somebody? That's like a rational thought with Michael Johnson. The better the matchup for him, the more likely he's going to lose. Darius Flowers had him in a little bit of trouble in their fight. Um, Michael Johnson's very confusing. 24-19 as a professional. He has nasty power, but it's kind of that stinging power where he needs to land it a couple times and then you start to feel it because you're like, oh shit, this left hand's really hurting me. But other than Azaitar, he doesn't really throw for the fences. It's a lot of 1-2s at range, kind of fast, crisp boxing. But he's coming off the win versus Altman Azaitar. He beat Darius Flowers by decision before that. And then he lost to, I believe it was Diego Ferreira in a fight he was winning, but then he got flatlined out cold. And that is the story of Michael Johnson's career. He is winning in a lot of these fights where he gets finished. He has the style to beat anybody and the style to also just kind of lose randomly. Like having losses to Clay Guida is tough in 2020. But Daniel Zellhuber, on the other hand, a very similar boxing style, the classical Mexican kind of jab you at range, tough chin. I mean, dude, the Rebovix fight, I hope they post this on YouTube because one of the greatest fights I've ever seen in my life, dude. That third round, maybe not greatest fight, but that third round was nuts. Really tough kid. He's never been finished. There's a reason he's a favorite here, right? Minus 600. He's finished 10 of 15. He's got power. Michael Johnson's chin is touch and go, and, at 39 years old, it's probably more questionable than ever. For the reasons that I have just stated, I think Michael Johnson's going to win this fight. Um, Again, I say this lightly. In my actual prediction video, 100% I'm going to pick Daniel Zellhuber. I've already said this. But for the sake of the Money Manziel MMA criteria, there is nobody that fits it more than Michael Johnson. There is zero logic that goes into picking Michael Johnson here. He's just worse than Zellhuber everywhere. He's pretty fast still. People don't give him credit for it at 39, but he's still really fast. He eats his shit whole, just like he told Justin Gaethje. I like that. And the only other vibes-based thing I've got is that old heads I feel like I've been winning. Like Kamaru Usman won this year. who just fought? Derek Lewis just won. So we've got some guys now that have been older and winning fights. So I do think there's something to be said for that. So I'm picking Michael Johnson. Don't take this that seriously. It's a Michael Johnson fight. Just be happy you watched. Next up, Dan Ige and Patricio Pitbull. I hate this fight so much, man. I'm sorry. There's a couple fights on this card, especially on the main card, where I'm like, dude, are we dead ass? Like this could be an Apex co-main, and I'd be like, oh, cool, that's cool. That's a good two names, you know. But either way, Danny Ige and Patricio Pitbull. Danny Ige, 33. Pitbull, 38 years old. Pitbull coming off the loss to Yair, where he almost got chinned at the end of the third round. And Ige, kind of on the other hand, in a very close fight with Sean Woodson. A fight that stylistically was really bad for him, actually. But he was able to get the finish late, early stoppage. It is what it is. But Ige has legit power, man. And I think that Pitbull is chinny now at 38, where he has that KO loss and Ryzen randomly. He has no meaningful wins in the past 3-4 years. I just think we're getting a guy who is at the end of his tether in his career. And I think it's a type of fight where Pitbull probably doesn't look that bad, but I think that he is not putting himself in harm's way in fights anymore. He used to be like a burn the boats, just crash into people and see what happens type of fighter, but now he's incredibly flat footed. He only kind of relies on wrestling occasionally. So I'm going to go Dan Ige. And the big reason here is that Patchy Mix and Pitbull have this same Bellator chromosome, and I don't know if this is everybody, but they just stare at you at like kind of angrily at range. They just kind of look at you and they're mad that you're even there across from them, and they don't throw punches. Ige, at least especially in the Lerone Murphy fight, a fight where he dropped Lerone, in that third round, he was going after it. He was like, I need to win this round. He was trying. It was a very close fight. With Diego Lopez, he won the third round. He's a guy that can really turn up the heat, and with a guy who's not going to outvalue him, I think it's a tailor-made 30-27 type of fight for Dan Ige. Pitbull landed 17 significant strikes against Yair in 3 rounds. That is just over 5 significant strikes a round. So I just cannot pick a guy who does that to win a fight. So we're going Dan Ige. Featured fight of the evening. Kevin Holland versus Daniel Rodriguez. Another fight where I'm just kind of like, dude, we're just throwing shit at the wall. Like I don't really know what we're doing with Kevin Holland and Daniel Rodriguez. I know it was a fight that was supposed to be made. I believe it was UFC 279 was when this fight was supposed to happen. But regardless, you get Kevin Holland and Daniel Rodriguez. Holland has finished 23 of 28. Rodriguez 13 of 19. Holland is just coming off finishing Vicente Luque and beating Gunnar Nelson. He's 2-0 now at welterweight again since leaving. And Daniel Rodriguez has beat Alex Morono and Santiago Ponzinibbio. Now, this is a really tricky fight for me because Kevin Holland has the same type of thing where he really does fight down to his opponents. Like when the stage is the brightest, he went toe to toe with Wonderboy. Regardless of the ending of that fight, for 3.5 rounds, basically, Kevin Holland was outstriking Wonderboy. It was very close. It just Holland eventually gasped because Wonderboy was throwing crazy shit at him, and he kind of gave out. But he was there with him. Like he fights up to the moment. And my thought is that Daniel Rodriguez does not pose a legitimate enough threat to Kevin Holland. In my opinion, to beat Kevin Holland, you have to have finishing potential. I look back on the guys who have beat him. JDM was just a really close fight, and honestly, looking back, was pretty good from Kevin Holland to stay in there. If you're a boxer, I don't really think you're going to do much to Kevin Holland, because that's what Rodriguez is. He's not a one-shot type of guy. He landed a big shot on Ponzinibbio, but even Ponzinibbio recovered in that fight. Well, no, he didn't, I guess. But Ponzinibbio got hurt earlier in the fight, then won a round off Rodriguez, and then Rodriguez finished him. You know? And he got finished by Ian Gary. I just feel like Kevin Holland has the power to put this guy away. You can't go to a split decision with Alex Morono and tell me that you're going to legitimately beat a guy who I think is a top 10 level guy. So I'm going to go with Kevin Holland here. You can't get over the Ian Gary getting KO'd by him. I feel like, my thought with this fight is like the Wonder Boy fight, it almost looks better on Wonder Boy's resume, and I think it's justice for Wonder Boy after getting robbed versus Bonfim that we get a Kevin Holland win, so that way that makes Wonder Boy's win over him look much better at 170. Um, and he's just gonna have the tougher fit. You know, Daniel Rodriguez is coming out in like some questionable like schoolyard type of fit, but Holland's gonna come out with like a 45-70 chain and fucking I don't know what else. So I think Kevin Holland wins. There's not a lot about backing this pick, but I just think he's better than D Rod, so we'll go Kevin Holland. Co-main event of the evening. I cannot believe that we're talking about this as a co-main event, but also, and let me do an aside here for a second because I got time to spare today. People are complaining about this pay-per-view a lot, and I made a rant video that did well complaining about this pay-per-view. The truth is, man, it's a non-title fight main event. Who cares about a BMF belt or whatever? The UFC is not going to waste their time on stacking a bunch of good names onto a card that is not even a title fight main event. You know what I mean? It's kind of similar, although 291 was a good card, so I guess I can't say that. But it like with Poirier and Holloway, there's nothing they gain. There's no future fight that they gain if Poirier wins. So they're not going to set it up with a big lightweight banger between Gamrot and Benoit Saint-Denis, and maybe the winner fights Poirier. You know, like something like that. Even though Gamrot trains at his gym, you can't do something like that as the co-main because it doesn't set up anything in the future. The UFC is a business, so they're not going to waste fighters on this card. That's what's unfortunate. But I think 319, I've heard rumors of a couple big fights that are being added. Prates and Jeff Neal's coming to that card. That'll be fun. They need more on that card. They need at least two more good fights, but is what it is. Anyways, Roman Kopylov and Paulo Costa. I'm very back and forth on this. I think you could go either way with this fight. Roman Kopylov coming off a split decision to Cesar Almeida, and then he KO'd Chris Curtis, but it was really a decision. It was a really close fight. I think they were just trying to give Kopylov the win, but it is what it is. He's finished 12 of 14 by KO. Nasty power in the kicks and with the hands. Paulo Costa has also finished 12 of 14, but he's coming off losses to Robert Whitaker and Sean Strickland. Now, name-wise, you go, okay, whatever, he lost. But the way he lost in those fights was kind of tough. Like, the output has been terrible from Paulo Costa. Sean Strickland, he threw virtually nothing in a fight where if he threw a bunch of punches, he would have won. Paulo Costa was tailor-made to beat Sean Strickland. He's a literally a marauder. Walks forward, tracks you down, and hurts you. That is a style that Sean Strickland hates, is pressure on him when he's trying to pressure you. That's why he did so well against Izzy, because Izzy's not really a pressure guy. And then Robert Whitaker, he hurt him in the first round bad, and then did nothing in the second and third round. And then he beat Luke Rockhold. So it's just like you want to believe that Paulo Costa is still the same guy. Post the Izzy fight, post the Marvin Vettori incident and fight. But I don't think he is, man. I think Roman Kopylov is going to win. I'm copying the lingo of Paulo on Twitter. I'm sorry, motherfucks. But I can't predict Paulo to win. If Paulo wins, I'll be happy for him, and I'll think about him in the future. For the sake of making a prediction, I cannot side with the Paulo Costa side. There's nothing that I can do that will convince me that beating Luke Rockhold, and by the way, going life and death with Luke Rockhold in 2022 is a good win. So I think Evil Chase Hooper wins here. He probably decapitates the guy. I don't know. I mean, Paulo Costa has shown that he can be dropped. Yoel dropped him. Izzy dropped him and finished him. Strickland dropped him, which is crazy. But I think Roman Kopylov wins. Main event of the evening. Dustin Poirier and Max Holloway. I'm very back and forth on this because it is a close fight. But I'm just thinking to myself, man, Dustin Poirier in the Islam fight, I've watched it back. It's a really fun fight. But it's only fun because of the moments that Poirier shucks off Islam's takedowns, which is really cool. But then you kind of take the bird's eye view, and you're like, wait a minute. This guy got outboxed for 5 rounds by Islam. Islam would get outboxed by JDM, by the way. He would need to grapple, and I think he could win that fight grappling. Dustin Poirier needs to be able to outbox a guy like Islam, even in the... Like Conor, when he was given a round versus Khabib, where Khabib kind of laid off him a little bit and stood with him, Conor outboxed Khabib. And Dustin Poirier was given chances to do that, and he was still kind of getting outstruck on the feet. So I do think he moves slower now at 36. It's pretty clear that his hands aren't the same, which makes what Michael Johnson does a little crazier. But Max Holloway, the Elite Poirier loss sucks, but you look at the run that he was on up to that point. I just think it was a circumstance of his recover. He would have got probably rocked by that shot anyways at 55. Villia hit him. But the difference is his recoverability is not the same at featherweight as it is lightweight. Poirier does not have the legitimate chance, I believe, to sting Max Holloway bad, and Max Holloway has taken a lot of time off. I don't think that Poirier has the finishing potential, regardless of how many KOs he has, to one shot Holloway. You're not going to volume Max Holloway to a finish, in my opinion. So I think that Max Holloway is going to win this fight. We're going to get a lot of edits on TikTok. I am the Heat. I am the Heat. He doesn't know who the Heat is. You're going to find out Saturday night. Um, and also, like, everyone wants Poirier to win. You also don't want Holloway to lose. But listen, man, the universe doesn't give you what you want in this life. And Dustin Poirier is what we all want to happen. Shine bright like a diamond, and it's not going to happen. The UFC will never allow this. If it's a split decision, I bet it goes Max Holloway's way. It's one of those things where you just have to expect that. Unfortunately, we live in a world where Dustin Poirier is not going to get this perfect Cinderella send off like Robbie Lawler did. I wish he did, but he's paid he's paid in full, dude. I'm paid in full, dude, in blood, dude, paid in blood. Yeah, listen, bro. Yeah. Max Holloway, dude, he's a fucking scumbag, dude. Max Holloway's a fucking scumbag, dude. There's no way he's gonna win this fight, dude. But no, Max Holloway's gonna win. I've got him by decision, maybe late finish. And that is gonna do it for UFC 318. So thank you everybody for listening. I appreciate all of you so much. Remember, these are not my serious predictions. This is just the criteria for these fights. So, serious predictions Thursday. I might have a video tomorrow. I'm not completely sure. It depends on if my brain can come up with anything. So, I'll see you boys then. Thank you so much for listening. Like, comment, subscribe. TikTok is at Manzel MMA. And I'll see you boys in the next one. Peace out.